For many years, there has been a rivalry. When asked what the shortest verse in the Bible is, most people will tell you that it's John 11:35, Jesus wept. But then you will have another group come along and say that actually Job 3:2 is the shortest verse in the Bible, Job said. Their argument is that it is less letters and therefore shorter than Jesus wept. Then the Jesus wept fanboys will come along and say, well, you could translate it as he wept, which would make it shorter than Job 3:2. The other side counters and says, well, we could translate it as he said, thus making them the same length. This puts both verses right on par, as they are the same word count and the same letter count. But what if I told you that they are missing some very important factors when making these claims? And that is what we are going to be talking about today. I'm Aiden, and welcome to A Pastor's Life for Me. So, there are a handful of ways that we could translate each of these verses, which does change the length of them. But to be fair to this quest, the literal translation would be best. See, when we argue about what is the shortest verse in the Bible, we are arguing over the English translation. This is kind of foolish, since the Bible was not originally written in English, rather Greek and Hebrew, and a few portions in Aramaic. Here's the problem when arguing with length in English. When going from Hebrew or Greek into English, word counts do not line up. One word in Hebrew and Greek could be 2 or 3 words in English. Take this Hebrew word, for example, vayomer. This is one word in Hebrew, but it translates as, and he said, which is 3 words in English. The same is true with Greek. Edekrusan, 1 word in Greek, but 2 words in English. He wept. So this argument between which verse is shorter from an English perspective is kind of faulty. Let's start with Jesus wept. In English, it is 2 words, but in Greek, it is 3. Edekrusan ha Jesus. Now, if we were to go with a super literal translation into English, it would be the Jesus wept. In English, we do not need to use a definite article, the or a or an, when using a name. So we cut it out, but it is there. So from a word count, John 11:35 technically has 3 words. What about Job 3:2? Well, it also has 3 words. Vaya'an iyo vayomer. So by word count, they are both the same length. But in both English translations, like the NIV, they are 2 words. He wept and he said. So you can argue if he said or he wept is shorter, but it's kind of a faulty argument. Here's where it breaks down even further. Hebrews love repetition, which we often say is needless in English. So where the NIV translates Job 3:2 as he said, it is actually missing parts of the Hebrew. A literal translation of this verse would be, and Job answered, and he said. Now I actually prefer this translation, but that could just be the Hebrew reader in me. But compare literal word count in English. John 11:35 is 3 words, and Job 3:2 is 6 words. So from an English standpoint, John 11:35 is shorter. But if we go into the Greek and the Hebrew, they're the same length. 3 words. Then what do we do next? Do we count letters to see which one is shorter? Well, this is kind of faulty as well. The Greek is simple. It has 16 letters. The Hebrew, not so much. It's a little bit more complex. If you take the vowel pointings, it has a total of 20 letters, which would make John 11:35 shorter. But Hebrew wasn't originally written with vowels. Without them, Job 3:2 is actually 13 letters, making it shorter than John 11:35. But then you could argue that that's not really reflecting what's being said, which then takes you into oral letters instead of written letters. But we could also then say the same with the Greek, which is why counting letters doesn't work. So if we're looking at the original languages, they're both the same length, and counting letters is not a proper way of comparison. Does that mean that we cannot definitively say which one is shorter? Well, from a technical standpoint, they tie. But if you base it off of what the verses are saying, then John 11:35 is shorter. It's one action. Jesus wept, whereas Job 3:2 is 2 actions, and Job answered, and he said. So take your pick. Say that they are a tie because they're both three words. Say John 11:35 is shorter because it is saying less, or say Job 3:2 is shorter because it's got less letters when written down with just the consonants, though that argument is flawed. I say it doesn't matter. But if I had to choose between the two, I would take John 11:35 because there is only one verb. But I don't have to choose, so I can say that they are a tie. Subscribe to this channel and like this video if you enjoyed this or if you learned something. But that is all for today, so until next time, I hope that you remember to know the word, do the word, and share the word. But as always, we do it in love.